Grace. Welcome to Malaysians on the Move.
Hi, Yoshni. So glad to be here.
I don't really know that much about you, so why don't you take me back to your time growing up in Malaysia? And let's start there.
Great. Should I give you my elevator pitch or should I give you like the long form version of the elevator pitch?
Somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. So what I usually say is I'm from Malaysia, but I've lived in Beijing, Hong Kong, New York, and now I'm based in Pasadena in California. I moved out of Malaysia at the age of 13 and lived in Beijing for 5 years, and then went to NYU, worked there for a year and a half, and then moved to Hong Kong for 2 years. And then this led me to coming to Pasadena for grad school to become a therapist. And as for just like a little background of where I was in Malaysia, I grew up in KL because no one really knows anywhere else in Malaysia other than Kuala Lumpur. So I say KL, but actually where I grew up was in Sierra Mas, in Sungai
Oh.
Buloh. Yeah. And I went to SJKC Damansara for 6 years in Chinese school, and which was really helpful for Beijing because I learned all my Mandarin there. And then I actually attended Wesley Methodist for 3 months. Even though I was only there for 3 months, it's still such like a special place in my heart. That's a little bit about me.
Take me back to the time where you found out, or you were told, or you wanted to, I'm not sure, where you were moving to Beijing.
I always go back to thinking of that moment in my life as like such a turning point, and my 13-year-old brain had no idea how that would like unravel the rest of my life. My whole life I've always thought like I would be in Malaysia, just like, just it's a great country. So comfortable, so many good people, good food. Like, why would I ever think about leaving? But my parents obviously were more adult and more aware that secondary school in Malaysia wasn't that great. So they've already made plans at that time to actually move us to New Zealand. I don't remember this, but they told me like I even interviewed for schools. They even like got a house ready in New Zealand. But then at that time, my dad's boss from Kazana didn't want my dad to leave. So he reached out to my dad and was like, "Hey, I'm going to offer you this like opportunity to start up our Kazana office in China and lead that APAC region. And we will give you like an offer that you cannot turn down, including like free education for your children, huge expat packages." It was like a no-brainer for my dad. So he decided to move us over. I did not want to move, especially not to Beijing at that time, because again, I was like very happy in Malaysia, and I was like moving anywhere else just sounded a bit like foreign and strange. And why would I do that? Especially to China at that time, it was known to be very like quote unquote ulu, which is like Malay for, very backwards.
Yeah.
But when I moved, it was actually 2008, right in the middle of the Beijing Olympics. So moving there, even though I didn't like it at first, I was very frustrated and angry at my parents for uprooting me. But as my time went on, it was such a privilege to be able to see the modernization of China, and to also see how much that country grew in those 5 years that I was there. And also it exposed me to the international school circuit. So now I have friends all over the world, not just from Malaysia, not just from the US, but friends in Europe, friends in Australia, and across Asia. So again, like I look back and I'm like, wow, 13-year-old me had no idea how big of an opportunity this is. But now that I'm an adult, looking back, I'm like, that was really one of the biggest gifts my parents have given me.
Wow, that's a really good reflection. So, just to clarify,
Mm-hmm.
you went to international school in China. So,
Mm-hmm.
all your classes, everything was in English. But when you walked
Yes.
around the streets, you would be speaking Mandarin.
Exactly. It was such a interesting experience because my schooling in Malaysia was all in Chinese. So suddenly I had to do that mental switch of switching everything to English. My mathematics definitely suffered because of that. Same with all my other subjects for a little bit. But then at home, actually in Malaysia, I grew up speaking English. I've watched English TV shows my whole life. So my colloquial Chinese is actually not that strong. And then when I moved to Beijing, it was really funny because they wouldn't understand me because I would speak Malaysian Chinese or
I
Malaysian
see.
Mandarin. And they spoke like Beijing style Mandarin, which was also like another culture shock adding on to the move.
Right, right. Would you say that you thought a lot about Malaysia and you were like, maybe after we are done in China, when someday your dad's job will end, right? You were like, we'll go back to Malaysia. Did you ever feel like, oh, Malaysia's always there in the background?
Absolutely. The goal was actually like 3 years in China. I ended up staying for 5 years. Then I went to NYU, and then my family stayed for another 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was almost 11 years to 13 years, if I remember correctly. And even when I was at NYU, like I didn't think of going to Malaysia for undergrad because I didn't know of any undergrad schools. Also because it was an international school, so we were being fed like UK, US, Australia. Um, so I didn't think about Malaysia for undergrad. But even when I was at NYU, in a weird way, my end goal would be like, oh, I want to go back to Malaysia to like give back to the country, to work there. So it's always been at the back of my mind throughout my teenagehood up to my young adult years.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. And now you have a profession as a mental health professional.
Hmm.
How did you get into that? So, did you get to NYU knowing that that's what you wanted to do, or?
Oh, nope. This is also a funny story. When I went to NYU, I was really, really, really interested in theater. And there was a program in NYU that allowed you to create your own major. And I created a major that was called Theater, Education, Identity, and Food, which is food storytelling on the stage.
I gotta ask though, not to
Yeah,
interrupt, but
go
do
for
you
it.
think that you had this inkling towards theater because of some experiences that you had at the international school in China, or not really?
Exactly that. Yeah.
The reason I ask is because if you stayed in Malaysia for secondary school, it's unlikely that you would have had this experience, right?
Right, exactly. That's why I was like, oh my God, you're so spot on that. Because of my international school drama teachers, like I really felt like this was something I was really passionate about, and I still am in many ways. And then I worked for a film production company in New York for a year and a half, and I still worked in theater at that time. And then my visa at that time came to an end. Okay, maybe this is the sign that I can finally go back to Malaysia. When I started looking for jobs outside of the US, as I started transitioning back to Asia, I realized I was like, I don't see a future in me working in film and TV and theater because I just don't love it enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a tough realization to come to. I was like, because I knew so many people in the arts, like they would rather die than not work in the arts. And I was like, I am not that person.
Got it. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So coming to that realization, I was like, okay, maybe working full time in the arts is not for me. So what is next? I applied to a corporate job in Hong Kong. I tried that, did not like it.
Was it just a 9 to 5 life, being constrained at a desk? Like that was not your scene?
Exactly that. Yeah, the 9 to 5. And in Hong Kong, it was like 9 to 8. Coming from the US to that, it was not a good fit. So I just couldn't really deal with that kind of environment. And then I worked a little bit with like customer service, a little bit of fashion agency work, and I realized like throughout all the work, all the different jobs I've held all through my life, the first thing I always think about is like I love working with people. And not many people can say that from what I've heard. And then that made me think about all the way back to NYU. I took a class called The Art of Play, and it
Okay.
was led by a drama therapist, Maria Hodomarska, and she is a huge mentor of mine and the reason why I am where I am today. She told me at the end of one of our classes, she was like, Grace, you'd be a good therapist someday. And at that time, I had no idea what therapists do, what mental health was. I was like, oh, that's really funny. I'm going to live life first. Fast forward, after trying out all these jobs, I realized like she was onto something. She saw something in me that I did not see in myself at that time. And I wasn't ready to hear until, I said what I said. I had to go through life first. And so that's how I ended up applying to grad school. I got into a school here in California, and this is where I am.
Nice. Okay. And so right now you're a practicing mental health professional,
Hmm.
i.e. therapist.
Hmm.
How long has that been for you and how are you liking it?
I've been a practicing therapist for about 2.5 years now. And I say practicing therapist because my first year I was still in grad school, and they call it like intern practicum student. So I started seeing clients then, and then I'm currently an associate level therapist. I am currently a marriage and family therapist. And in order to get fully licensed, you need 3,000 hours. And
Yeah.
so before you get fully licensed, you have to then become an associate, get registered under the board. of behavioral sciences, and then work under a supervisor's license to accrue those 3,000 hours. And it's been such a joy. I think just being with clients has been such an affirmation of like, okay, this is a job that I can do.
Yeah. And if you ever decide to move to another country, you can set up your own practice there, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Your credentials are transferable.
Yeah, as long as I get licensed, I can transfer much easily between states in America, or even like internationally to UK or Malaysia even. And that was part of why I actually picked California, because it's one of the hardest boards to get licensed in
Oh,
internationally. So there is this recognition that if you can get licensed in California, because it is the highest requirements, like highest amount of hours, if you can get that, it's so much easier to transfer from California to another state or to internationally than
yeah.
reverse. Yeah,
I have a random question. One thing
go
that
for
I've
it.
always wondered about therapists is that you take in a lot of the burden of all your clients and what they're going through. How are
Hmm.
you able to like disconnect and then, not let it weigh you down? Especially if it's like bad things or negative things.
That is every therapist's question every day.
Yeah.
How do I not let this trickle out into my real life? I think there's two parts to it. One, I have a really good support system. My systems include like other therapists that I can share this with, and they just get it. I don't need to explain more, and they are able to provide like either advice, support, just like fellow venting sessions. Also, I have really good friends and family. My partner is just really supportive. He really understands when I'm having a bad day, and he can see from my face, like if I had a rough session, he's like, "All right, she needs 15 minutes. I'll let her decompress, and she'll come back to me normal." So that's the people part, and then the other part is like I make sure that I exercise. I'm also a Pilates instructor, so I make sure that I get some of my own exercise in, not just to teach other people. I go on walks. I eat good food. Uh, and if I feel like I need to eat something like unhealthy, like ice cream, oily, greasy foods, I let myself do that because
That's
I
great.
need that more than, being like quote unquote like super healthy and disciplined and regimented. So yeah.
Very nice, very nice. And I might have missed it, or maybe I didn't. When are you expected to complete the 3,000 hours?
My goal is to complete within a year and a half. Most people try to finish within a year and a half of graduation, but because I'm choosing a longer route, which is private practice, then I'm giving myself a little bit more room to get my hours just because practice is a little bit slower. And also
Mhm.
because you have to get your own clients. And your private pay. So it's like a host of different things that cause the accumulation of hours to be slower. But I prefer that over like doing something that's really like fast paced, like community mental health or working for the Department of Mental Health that, you may be able to accrue like 30 to 40 hours a week, but at the cost of like your sanity. So
Yeah,
it's like a cost benefit analysis that I did for myself. So hoping for a year and a half from now.
yeah. Are you, at all involved in the mental health space in Malaysia or back in Beijing? Like, what are some of the things that you've noticed while you've been on this journey?
I also feel like I'm not the most like qualified to speak on this, but from what I've gathered in talking with other therapists in Malaysia, also friends from Malaysia, and I think the first barrier that like people face is the cost, because
Oh,
yeah, because I mean, like if you think about wages in the US versus wages in Malaysia and the ratio that you have to dedicate towards therapy, a lot of
mm-hmm.
people aren't willing to dedicate 200 ringgit to a session, which is completely understandable.
That's so true. Very well said. I didn't even think about that. That's a great point.
Yeah, I credit that to my friend Ryan because he was the one who brought it up to me, and cost is the biggest factor. So thankfully, I've seen a lot more like low cost therapy or like student led organizations. So it's practicum intern students who need experience, then they offer lower cost therapy. So it's like a good brief intervention.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it's that full like long term journey that we get. Like such a privilege to be able to have a therapist that accompanies you for 5 to 10 years, right?
Yeah,
But at least that's there and it's getting more widespread. But
yeah.
I've noticed that with the younger generation, there's a huge shift, which is awesome to see that people are sharing more vulnerably, not just about therapy, but more so like, oh, these are the struggles I'm going through, and these are the struggles with my family, these are the struggles with like my environment, my work, so stressful, and people are willing to actually say it, instead of just like burying it deep, which is what we're told in many Asian cultures. We're like, okay, just push through, just bury it down, just like tahan a bit.
Yeah, 100%. I was actually trying to get to that a lot of it is also like there's a stigma, and some of it is actually cultural.
Mm-hmm.
Like how you're brought up, that you don't talk about these things, or you don't speak that way, and you don't reveal these things to somebody else. And
Mm-hmm.
if life is stressful, that's how it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
But
Yep.
is it though? Like, so yeah, definitely. I think I always tell people that, a lot of people ask me about Malaysia and stuff. And I'm like, no, Malaysia's modern. Like, I grew up watching Disney Channel, the same shows that you watched here. But I do think, like, in terms of mindset, like, we are like 5 or 7, 8 years behind. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever's happening in America now that's like pop culture here, we know about it over there. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
more talking about the mindset and like the ways of living and things like that. So I think mental health really blew up here in the last decade, right? Like
Yes.
where it's
Yep.
like so common, which means
Mm-hmm.
in Malaysia it's going to be in the next decade. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, but I think in general, because the world's getting so small, people will be exposed to it. It just takes a while for it to become mainstream.
Exactly. That's my hope too, that the more that we talk about it outside of Malaysia, that the hope that, and also so many of us like a Malaysian diaspora, right? Like eventually, if even if we don't go back, like us sharing these kind of stories may just create like a little bit more awareness, a little bit more openness, a little less stigma about, sticky topics like therapy, family issues, mental health. So yeah, that's my hope too.
Yeah, yeah. When you embarked on this journey, did you receive any, I guess, resistance from your parents, or are they like quite liberal and modern in that way?
My parents are generally very open. I mean, they did allow me to study theater in school. So
Nice.
right, so very thankful for that. But because they knew that this would be another career pivot, so they were like, okay, and also because my family is Christian, so they was like, okay, if God's really calling you to do this, we need you to do one extra step that you never needed to do before with your other careers transitions. So they made me interview a lot of therapists. So I just had to reach out to like therapists and I was based in Hong Kong at the time. So therapists in Hong Kong, therapists based in Malaysia, therapists based in, I think I even reached out all the way to Australia and even like Canada and US, just to get the whole breadth of like what is possible with this degree.
Wow,
And
that's really excellent. Like, you don't hear a lot of people talking about like the hard work that they do behind the scenes.
right, and especially therapists, like now that I'm on the other side, like I really understand, like, oh wow, it's such a honor to be able to talk about my work, because not many people will ask me about it, and also I can't share a lot of it. And also therapists, hopefully a good one, are usually not braggy people. So
Mm.
we are not going to be talking about our work in such a like a grandiose, like open outward, like we're going to be the hot topic of the dinner table. That's usually not us, not therapists. So to be able to talk to that range of therapists, the range of work that they're able to do, was just so cool and inspiring. And one of the interviews that would stick with me is this like almost 90-year-old lady in Hong Kong. She was a mentor of a friend from church, and she just agreed to speak with me and spend a whole afternoon with me. And she's almost 90, and she still travels between the US and Hong Kong to do clinical work. And she's
Wow.
right. I know. I'm like at that age. She splits her time between I think it was Minnesota or somewhere like really remote. That really really needs a lot of Asian therapists. So that's part of like what drives her
Oh,
and to travel. And also in Hong Kong where there's just a lot of mental health need as well. So she told me that this is a job I can do until my brain dies. That's like her vision that keeps her going even as she is approaching 90. I was like, wow, I don't know if I could ever be like you, but I hope that when I'm your age, I can say the same thing, from like a truly deep and passionate part of me.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Damn. That's really inspiring. And I bet like that really also encouraged you to
Mm-hmm.
embark on this journey yourself, right?
Right? Yeah. Like her words like just stuck with me. So, and I'm saying it to everyone now. It's just like, I don't know, you can't make that kind of stuff up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, yeah. Before I, give you the mic to maybe speak a little bit more about
Mm-hmm.
mental health and whatnot, I do have one question that I don't know. I think many people who've never gone to therapy
Mm-hmm.
will wonder because that's
Mm-hmm.
how I was.
Mm-hmm.
In that you don't know what to expect from a therapist because what you see is on TV, and there's like only
Yes.
like two kinds.
Yeah.
There's one where it's like, I don't know if you've seen this show Never Have I Ever on Netflix,
Yes.
and the protagonist goes to therapy and
Yes.
complains, and then the
Mm-hmm.
therapist is giving him advice. So
Yes.
that's one. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
another kind of therapist where you just talk to them and you're just like sobbing and like you're crying, and the therapist is like, just nodding their head and
Mm-hmm.
like just there to comfort you. So I think like some of these
Yeah.
like it's just so unfortunate, but like I'm like, I think this is what people think it is, but actually that's not true because
Mm-hmm.
there are therapists that actually like they give you workbooks to do
Mm-hmm.
to improve certain behavior patterns and like things like that, right? Like there's just a lot that they do that you don't see on TV. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's something you can help debunk and share a little bit more about like the kinds of therapists out there.
I love that so much. I love the second depiction because I think it stems from Freaky Friday. I don't know if you remember, but like when the daughter switches over to become like being like the mom, and the mom's like, "Don't worry, you don't have to do anything else other than say like, and how does that make you feel?" And not gonna lie, I do that in session. um, but I think for those who have never been to therapy, this is what I tell everyone and anyone, including potential clients, friends, family. The most important thing is that you must like your therapist. Like, you must like him or her or them. Like, if you don't like them, you're going to see them 1 hour every week. Why are you paying them? And how you know you'll like them? It would just be a gut feeling. Usually, the therapists offer like 15 minutes to 20 minutes of like free consult calls. Take it, call them, talk to them on the phone or a video call, and be just to see what they're like. Is it important if they're funny? And are they funny to you? Humor is a great tool to not only understand why you laugh and why you laugh at certain things, but also it helps to understand like, hey, I like this person is able to understand me, and it doesn't feel like awkward. So if that's important to you, think about what's important to you, and also like trust your gut. Your gut will really tell you like, this is a good therapist for me. Because even if someone is a good therapist to your friend, they might not be the best therapist for you. So really learn to listen to your gut and just have a feel of like, oh, do I like this person? If I don't, it's okay. There are like so many other therapists out there. And you know what? The good news for the therapist is like, if a client says no to you, probably not the best fit for that therapist too. So it's like a win-win for both. And what to expect in therapy? It really depends on what you're going in for. I can speak for myself and the way I work. I let the client come in with whatever they want to talk about, and it's my job to hold the bigger picture of like, okay, how does this relate to your family history that you've told me about? How does this relate to your medical history? How does this relate to what you've experienced like 3 weeks ago than from what you told me? So I'm the one holding that like big picture for you, and I help guide you to like zoom out a little bit and just look at like how everything like kind of connects to each other. The way I think about things is that what's the feeling of the feeling underneath the feeling. So that's why I do
Right.
say like, how does that make you feel? um because I think that we feel, we say things like, oh yeah, I feel mad, or I feel like irritated, I feel frustrated, I feel sad, but then that's like one layer of feelings. There's another feeling underneath the feeling, there's another thought underneath the feeling, there's another like body sensation. So I'm just helping you to like uncover what at the base of it, like what are your beliefs, what do you believe about yourself, what do you believe about the world, what do you believe about family, and is that helpful? It may be true, but is it helpful? And if it's not helpful, what can be true and helpful instead? Where some other therapists, like what you said, Yoshini, like some therapists love workbooks. They have like a clear structure of like session 1 to 12, you're working on this. And then some other therapists are super, what we call psychodynamic. So you come in and you just free ball it the whole session. Whatever
Yeah.
comes to mind, comes to mind. And it really depends on what we call like theoretical orientation or framework. But regardless of what that is, the most important thing is, do you like your therapist? So if you like them, whatever they ask you to do or whatever they ask you as a question to think deeper, you have this trust that you're like, oh, what they're saying is for my benefit. And
Yeah.
so there's this like extra just like ease that comes with like, okay, yeah, my therapist asked me this question, I'm just going to answer as honestly because I like them, because I trust them, because I feel safe with them. So all of that to say, if you're thinking about therapy, and as you start to interview therapists, guide yourself with that question: do I like this person?
Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah. Anything more you want to add about the mental health space, or we talked a little bit about how you decompress. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
that you are a Pilates instructor. How did you get into that?
Oh, so I've been going to this studio called Wonder Bar in Pasadena. So I started going there because of a grad school assignment actually. So in that assignment, I was assigned to like evaluate how I care for myself, what we call self care, right? And it covered different domains of life. So mental. So most therapists should have gone through their own therapy. So then in that season, like I started going to my own therapy in grad school. Then they asked about spiritual health. They asked about emotional health, relational health, and all of those domains I was like doing great, except
Okay.
for physical health. And I was like, well, I don't love exercising, especially like going to the gym, doing my own thing. I was like, I don't have that kind of self motivation. I'll sign up for group classes instead. So that's how I found Wonder Bar, and I just started going weekly. It's like that's my self care, and it really helped me focus on like my body in a way that no other thing has been able to. Because as therapist, I take care of people my whole life,
Yeah.
or as my career, right? So and then for these like 45 minutes in this workout class, someone is telling me what to do, someone is taking care of me, someone's making sure that my posture is right. And so I just like kind of fell in love with that. And then the way I got into becoming an instructor was the instructors at Wonder Bar looked at me and they were like, Grace would be a great instructor. And I
Nice.
was like,
You seem to have a lot of that in your life. Like people identify you and be like, you'd be great at this. And then you actually like follow through.
and I'm so grateful for that because I don't feel like I think this is part of being a woman and also part of being Asian. Like we're not taught to look at our own strengths and be like comfortable in that strength. So it's
Yeah.
really great when other women and other people have like looked at me and said like, no, you would be great at this. No, you actually would be really talented at this. This is natural to you. So when they said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I think they do see something in me that I've never seen before. And it just came at a right time where like I was switching from a really fast-paced therapy job, which was a community mental health job, into private practice. So as I was building up my caseload, I realized like I do have a lot of free time. I could get certified in becoming a Pilates instructor, and then work part-time as a Pilates instructor as well. And this is like a long-term vision with integrating Pilates and therapy in America, at least. Like that's very like this mainstream idea of like trauma-informed yoga, where
Oh,
because yoga is a spiritual practice. Like when you look back at the far roots of yoga, um,
100%.
yes, and so a lot of therapists have looked at that and realized like it's because of the spiritual roots, the postures in your body actually really help to release a lot of stress, a lot of tension in your body. So a lot of people are starting to integrate that with trauma work. Where so the basic idea of like trauma is that when you experience something incredibly traumatic, your brain is overloaded and then
Hmm.
your body doesn't have time to respond, or your body doesn't know what to do to respond. So it goes into the flight, fight, freeze mode that
Right.
um, right. So I think a lot of us are kind of familiar with that. But because of modern society, we stop our body from fully processing the trauma because we're like, oh, we have to be like put together for work, or we have to hold ourselves together. We have to stop crying. We can't grieve this anymore because it's
Mm,
your insurance only gives you 1 week to grieve or whatever it is, right? So there's a lot of fast-paced time that happens in modern society that doesn't allow us to grieve.
I
So
see.
integrating that with yoga allows you to slow down, allows you to really like focus on your breathing. It's super mindful, so you're able to stretch 45 minutes into something that feels so much more longer, allowing your brain, your body to have that space and time to process what it was never able to process during that traumatic moment. And also the history of Pilates comes from Joseph Pilates, who worked with war veterans who were immobile from war because of injuries, because of trauma. and he managed to make them like from horizontal to being able to walk again. So
I
there is a
see.
lot of already innate trauma work in Pilates, even though that's not what it's specifically focused on nowadays. So my hope is to be able to bring like my understanding of trauma, the more I learn throughout my therapist journey, and integrate that with like the body work I get to do in Pilates. But that's like a long-term thing. I'm still figuring it out, and I am excited to share maybe in like 5 to 10 years when I figured that out.
That's really fascinating. I didn't know a lot about the history of Pilates, and that's what I love about this podcast. I always learn something new. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's really good of you to like think of a long-term vision as well, which leads me to my, I like to end the podcast by asking the golden question, which
Mm-hmm.
is, do you ever see yourself moving to Malaysia someday?
It really is a golden question. um, I think my current answer is yes, but my partner is American. He's in the entertainment industry too, so being in LA just makes so much sense with Hollywood being here. And if he were to move away from that, it might really hurt his career. And also for mine too. Right now, I can't move back to Malaysia just yet because I want to finish my license and build up my career here too. So the answer is yes, but short term, because my hope is long term. I would love to be able to go back to Malaysia to build up therapists there. Because
Mhm.
for me to provide therapy to Malaysians, it probably would work. Like especially local Malaysians, like of course, yeah, it will work as long as you like me, you feel like I'm understanding you. It would work, but there are cultural nuances that I will miss because I have
Yeah.
not been in Malaysia, since I was 13. So now that's like over 15 years. Whereas I think the training I can provide to therapists there would be more valuable because then what I learn in America, like you said, it may be 10 years ahead from what we learn in Malaysia. I would love to be able to bring that back to Malaysia so that the therapists there who are connected to the community, who are connected to the people there, can transform what they're learning from me or from an American context to fit Malaysia better than me trying to like negotiate that with my clients who deserve like way faster and better help with a local Malaysian therapist. Um, so the hope is to be able to like be both in Malaysia and the US, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's like you never know what will happen in the future, but it's nice to keep the doors open.
Yeah, I like that. Nice to keep the doors open.
Yeah, yeah. So, any closing remarks, Grace, before I let you go?
If you are considering therapy, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk about either my own therapy experience, how to find a therapist, especially if you don't know anyone in your life who has been through therapy. Like, I would happily be that person to talk to you about it. And if you know of any Malaysians in the US who are reluctant to do therapy, my recommendation is to find someone who understands Malaysian culture. They don't have to be Malaysian, but I think that someone who is Asian, someone who is culturally aware would be a better fit, just because there are so many nuances in Malaysian culture that we all know, especially our listeners who are Malaysian. We all know that there's just so many dynamics at play. Therapy works best when you feel ready, whether that means there's a crisis, whether that means you're at a stage of life where you feel like, I do want to talk about this thing I've never talked about with anyone. Don't ever feel forced to go to therapy, because I feel like you get the best out of it when you feel like you're ready and you feel like supported, either by your therapist or by your friends or your family or by the environment around you. That's when therapy works the best. Yeah, I think that's all that's on my mind right now.
That's awesome. If anybody wants to reach out to Grace, please do. She's very warm and welcoming, and she will be happy to help you out and answer your questions. And on that note, thank you so much, Grace, for reaching out to me and taking the time to speak to me today on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Yoshi. I had such a good time. It was so great to meet you and like talk with you. So yeah, thank you.